Welcome to the Land, your bet sports betting show. WNBA Finals Game 2. After an awesome Game 1 where the Lynx squeaked out that 2-point victory in the comeback, we're going to be taking a look at every player here for their player prop projections that I have using propsmadness.com as well as props.cash and outlier.bet. So if you want to check all those out, links are in the description of the video for you to use those tools yourselves. I also want to do a little giveaway here for the W. $50. If you jump in the comments, let me know the exact final score of this one, and whomever gets that right, throw you into a raffle if anybody else gets it right, and get you the $50 if you do get it completely correct. So go ahead and jump in the comments, let me know that stuff, like that video, and let's get right into it. Starting with the points for Brianna Stewart, and she's still at 21.5 is the line, which is what it was last game, with the total here at 43 minutes for her last game, 18 points that she put up, 21 field goals though. And while they weren't exactly the most the difficult field goals at times, it's mostly when she gets into the lane that she gets swarmed. So they're giving her what she wants from three. She did go 2 of 6, which hitting 2 is actually a big deal for Stewart, but it's not exactly her forte. Once she gets into the lane, which is what she wants to do, they are doubling her and making it very difficult for her to get easy looks inside the 3-point line. So I still like the points for her, to be honest. I still think at 21 shots, you can't fade her. It's going to be the same thing for Sabrina all series. I don't know that I'm going to feel comfortable taking an under at about 21 and 18.5 for Sabrina, which is where their numbers are right now. If you go back and look at the field goals that she took, which, by the way, pulling up the box score, just want to make sure everybody knows, if you want to look at the field goal attempts that Brianna Stewart took, this is now a hyperlink, just like it is on this one. Just starting it off, really easy bucket for her. That's not the norm. So what you want to look for in this stuff is she getting doubled? Is she getting open shots? And the answer is yes, if she's deep from 3, but she's getting swarmed once she gets into the lane. And that's something you got to keep in mind. So definitely want to check that stuff out. It helps you to run through some of these things. The way I would be betting her on this one is I do think the points are still a good play, but I also really like the rebounds and assists. And if you look at the head-to-head numbers here, as I pull that up, you can tell that she's gone over in 4 of the 5 games here and actually butted up right against this at 12 in the last game that they just played. 12 rebounds and assists in 43 minutes. Now she's probably looking at 38 minutes a game in this series. I think at that number, when you look at her on the season, she's at about 12.1 per game. You can see that number up here. And if you look at the minutes per game on the season, that's at about 33.5. And I'm pulling that up over here on props.cash just because it's really easy to be able to show you on the season. 36.9 minutes, or I'm sorry, that's the playoffs. I have that filter selected, 36.9 minutes. If I just look at the regular season by removing that filter, this changes to 33.5 minutes. So her minutes are going up in the playoffs, which means at about 12.1 rebounds and assists combined on the season, as you can see, 12.1 right here. There's a little bit of an edge to take the over on her rebounds and assists. I'm probably going to be playing a little bit of the points and a little bit on the RA separately. As I mentioned with Sabrina, it's tough to take an under for her ever. And to be fair, like you could if you wanted to. She's gone under 18.5 points in 3 of the 5 games she's played against this team. That's not really playoff Sabrina, though. As you can see, she's gone over in 5 of 7 once she gets into the playoffs here. And her minutes also go up like Stewie's, using props.cash once again to get these averages. If you look at Sabrina on the season, 18.6 points in 32.7 minutes. That has gone up in the playoffs to 35.3 minutes and the points per game up to 20.4. So she's right on the prop that she's at here at 18.5. She's above it by about a point, but you look at the head-to-head stuff, it's still pretty scary to take this number against this team. One really good shooting game in the Commissioner's Cup game, and then last in the game 1 here, not good shooting, but 26 shots. So I can never suggest fading Sabrina Ionescu when she's going to be taking 20 to 25 shots throughout the rest of this finals. But it's tough to back her once this gets up to 18.5. Even that 1 point makes it a little bit scarier, right? We took her at 17.5 last game. She needed overtime to get that number. That's what terrifies me about this. So, I mean, you can look at this a couple ways. One is she's going to play more minutes. You should back her on the points. 2, she's playing a team that is very good defensively against her and exactly what she wants to do as the pick and roll ball handler and a shooter from deep. And you can see this team is going to continue to limit stuff from deep. Number 2, limiting above the break threes. That's where Sabrina does her damage. So as the main ball handler, it's really hard to take her to get the points when you know that they're going to be swarming her. The assists are something that I would love to be able to back. Same concept for Stewie. It's just this team also doesn't give up assists. This is basically the number 1 team at limiting assists on the season is the Minnesota Lynx, especially against point guards. That's going to make it tough for somebody like Sabrina to keep getting those dimes. She's only done it once this season against them. It was in a game that she shot 4 for 21 as well. I do expect her to continue to struggle with the shot. But at the same time, the minutes are there to not fade the points. The assists don't have an edge, and the rebounds, I don't really have an edge either, even though she's gone over this 3 times out of 5 against this team. If you look at her on the season at about 4.7, even in the 33 minutes, it's just not enough of an edge for me to bet on Sabrina this game. Would love to be doing it, but I'm actually going to be looking at Stewie to be the one to get the points to carry this team to victory in game 2. Here's a bet I'm loving this game, and it's going back to the Rook sensation, Leonie Fiebich. I leaned over on 7.5 points, what I didn't want to have to bank on in game 1, I should say, and she went cleanly over that, 17 points, as you can see, and didn't have to shoot that well. So what's the reason I actually didn't bet on her, but was projecting it as a strong lean for game 1, was if you look at her in the playoffs, I mean, she's been shooting completely lights out, right? Like, look at these percentages. In this game, this is the last game, 56% from 3. This is 100% from 3, 33%, but then all these others, 50%, 50%. 67% and 100%. So she's actually killing it in the playoffs with her percentages. If we pull up props.cash, you'll see her averages on the percentages. Pulling up Leonie here. Look at her in the playoffs, and we'll just go down for a second. You can see field goal attempt, she's at about 7, and the field goal percentage, she's at 60.4% in the playoffs. For the 3-point percentage, 65% making deep shots in the playoffs for Leonie. That's not sustainable. But what we saw in game 1 was she got the volume. That's what we're looking for, is can we guarantee or at least feel comfortable that she's going to get more than 3 or 4 shots? Well, she just took 14, and I don't think that was a sort of a fluke at all. I think that was based on how the Lynx continue to swarm in. They're willing to get off of her or at least leave her one-on-one. And if you do look at the shots for Fiebich, what I would point out is she's being guarded by Courtney Williams predominantly for can't even get a hand up in her face to make it look right there. That is a shot that is technically hand up, but it doesn't matter because Courtney Williams has given up like 5-6 inches to Fiebich. So now you got her wide open in transition. Even Kayla McBride can't get a hand in her face. This is a very tall wing that's very difficult to bother her on the 3-point shot. You really need to sell out with a much bigger player. But look at this. She's even getting looks down low because she's got Courtney Williams on her. Not the best shot in the world, but the point is they're looking to her to be more involved in the offense here and has a green. Look at that green light. That is just an easy put up, a shot that's not necessarily easy for most players, but with ease, she's like, nah, I'm pulling this without hesitation because that's the game plan for this team. Once again, Courtney Williams in her face. Doesn't matter. She's still going to pull that, and it's still a very good look because that is not enough of a hand in her face to bother her. I love the confidence, and I love the volume. I love the minutes, everything for Fiebich moving forward. So at 9.5 points, it's a little bit of now it's getting the edge is kind of gone. I still like the points, but one other thing I'd show you is now that I feel comfortable that she's going to get the minutes, I love the rebounds for her, right? They're at 2.5, or you can take 3.5 for plus money. Both give you a nice edge. If you take 3.5 over plus 105 on Bet365, for instance, or Bet Rivers is plus 105, etc. So these 3.5 numbers, or even if you go to FanDuel and you bump this up to 4+ rebounds, you're looking at a really good number, about plus 120 for her to just get that. Those are my preferred ways to play this for her is rebounds because I now believe in the minutes. Just last thing to show you relevant to that, I'm on rebounds for Fiebich, and I'm looking at the minutes, and if I bump this up to at least 30 minutes on the season, how many times has she done this and gotten the boards, right? That's what I'm looking for, and I love the fact that if I could do this, it's an 80% hit rate because she's only played at least 30 minutes 10 times this season, and one of those was in this last game where she picked up 6 boards because she's also bigger than the person who's guarding her in Courtney Williams, so she's able to get down there and crash a lot more, and is also down there just to crash in general. So I'm going to take her on the boards for sure. I think the points are still a good look. Points and rebounds, totally fine with that. Still a really nice hit rate. And we have a nice cushion here. She's averaging 15 on the season when she gets these minutes. Also for the points, if you do want to look at those, the last thing I would say is if you go to 5+ field goal attempts for her this season, you can go over here to the filter tab and do advanced filters, use field goal attempts. Well, she took, like 14 shots in this last game. 9 of them were from deep. If she takes at least 5 shots even, right? Now, it's a 10, she's got averaging 10.4 points. It's a better than 50% hit rate. But look at what was happening in the beginning of the season, right? All her red is in the beginning of the season when she was still a rookie getting used to this league. By the time we got to like July, she's super comfortable. And once we come back from the break and she's even played in the Olympics, and that helps a ton of young players in their confidence, now we're talking about her averages going way the hell up with points, with shots, and with minutes in general. So the volume is there. I think it's going to continue to be there against a Lynx team that is like, look, we're going to let Fiebich do Fiebich because we've got to keep Courtney Williams on her, and we've got to make sure that we have our better defenders on players like Sabrina and obviously Stewie. So I think we'll continue to see Leonie Fiebich be a really nice outlet for this team. I'm backing her in this game. Want to let you guys know real quick about the partnership with ParlayPlay.io. If you do want to jump in there, you can get a $100 deposit match using code LandYourBets and get to betting in there. They're going to have some free squares as well moving forward, so you get a guarantee if you take like a Breanna Stewart, perhaps over half a point, that type of stuff. They're going to have some really good promos moving forward for the W as well as the NFL. So if you want to get in there and you don't yet have an account, I definitely recommend using that $100 deposit match using code LandYourBets when you get in there. I really want to go with Jonquel again, but like similar to Fiebich, we missed the boat at least on the points here. The edge was massive when it was 12.5 points. I knew that if she could stay in the game against a team that really forces centers off the floor because they play Alana Smith and she is a three-point shooter, so that does pull centers from the floor and limit their minutes as they're bad matchups for the Lynx. Jonquel is a very versatile 6'6", believe it or not. You don't really play her off the floor because she's pretty quick on her feet for someone that big. And she's definitely someone that dominates down low against a team like the Lynx. She's also very switchable onto Napheesa Collier. So I think she'll continue to get the minutes. But once you get up to 14.5, we're even above her season averages, right? Like, let's say she played 39 minutes in this game. Let's say there's no overtime. That's 34 minutes, right? If she's at 34 minutes, let's see what she did on the season at 34 minutes at least, and what that does to her points and rebounds. So she didn't even do it that much. She played 34 minutes 12 times. Still doesn't give us an edge. She's still at 13.8 points. So there's no edge there. Even if you look at the rebounds in this situation, a little bit better, right? 9.9, pretty good hit rate, 7 out of 12. But at the same time, 8.5 is minus 145. You got to go up to 9.5. And it's still about even money on Bet365 for her to get the 10 boards. It's becoming a little bit not good enough of a play. I think if you want to play Jonquel and you want to feel good about it, find the bottom rung. Maybe it's like 8 boards and 10 points, something to that effect. That's going to be where I'd feel a lot comfortable taking her. But the 15 points is not something I'm willing to play. I think a really nice way to make sure you get some action on Jonquel is to same game parlay 8 boards, 10 points. That should get you about plus 130, plus 125 on your money, wherever you're betting that. FanDuel is probably going to be the place to do that. But that's exactly how I would play her. I don't like these really high numbers for her, but I still like her to have a good game because I think the minutes will continue to be at 30 to 35 for her. And that's a really nice guarantee that we can't give to a lot of other players. Last player for the Liberty, we're looking at Betnijah, Laney Hamilton. I love her game, man. I mean, she's so athletic. She's so aggressive. And she's a big body that's difficult to deal with the versatility that she has. However, she's still showing that they don't really want to play her any more than 25 minutes. She's at about 20 to 25, and that crushes any edge, right? Now, I will say, like, 7.5 is super low when you look at 10 points per game on the season, right? 10.6. That said, like, if we pull her up over here so we can see her minutes on props.cash, you look at her in the playoffs, she's down to 26 minutes per game. On the season, she was at 29.6. So we can't really guarantee that she's going to get the minutes when she got hurt like 3.5 weeks ago, re-injured a scary knee injury for her. She's fine. She's still playing. She's still starting, but it's difficult to really support her when you can't really guarantee more than 25 minutes, right? If we look at her where we put her max at 25 minutes on the season, what happened when she only played a maximum of 25, right? Looking at that, not great numbers, 6 of 11, 8.8 points per game. An edge to the 7.5 to be sure, but not much of one. Even if we bump this up to 20 to 25, it's the same thing. She doesn't play less than 20 minutes. So 20 to 25 is going to be this hit rate. The points are still not there for me as something that I want to play as an over. I'd love to fade her knowing that she has a hard cap on her minutes, but it's too low at this point. Even with the dimes or the boards, still really low in the 20-25 minute. It's right at like a no push either way. You don't have an edge to the over or the under. This is fairly priced. Unfortunately, I still can't bet on Betnijah in this series right now. As we jump into the Lynx players and kick it off with Napheesa, quick reminder, link in the video description if you do want to get all my plays without missing a bet and get them at the same numbers that I'm playing here. This is the link. WAP.com is the spot. Also have a nice sale going for 50% off your first month if you use OCTSALE as your promo code. So jump in there, check it all out. Let's keep it moving here with the Lynx. We've got Nafisa up, and the thing about Nafisa is they actually dropped her points, which is nice. It was 21.5 for a portion of last game. I think it did drop on some books to 20.5. They're still at 20.5 though. 21 just crept over this. And what's interesting is she was 10 of 16, really efficient game, but 16 shots you don't love to see. And she only got to the free throw line twice because this team has the bodies, the liberty to switch on to her and not really create too much space for her to be able to drive in on people. Stewie's not fouling her down low, and Jonquel's not fouling her out on the perimeters. That's how, whenever she's got Jonquel on her, she's on the three-point line. When she's got Stewie on her, she's going right to the post. So what do we do with that? Well, this is right at her averages as well. I think if you want to take another bet for her, you saw 8 rebounds for her last game. I really thought she was going to get a couple more in that one. Still at 9.5 or plus money. You can get plus money for another little SGP for somebody who you know is going to be playing a lot of minutes, right? She played 43 last game, which is pretty much the whole game other than 2 minutes with overtime. You're not going to see her below 38. She's going to try to play the whole game when she can. So with that in mind, it's another same situation as Stewie and Ionescu. You can't fade her, but these numbers are right at her averages. So I think it's fair with the amount of minutes that she's going to be playing to go with another SGP, 20 points, 8 boards. Bob's your uncle. Feel pretty good about that for Nafisa. That's exactly how I'd be playing her in this game. Welcome to the show, Kayla McBride. Another big game for her, back-to-back now. She had 22 in the last game, 19 versus the Sun to close out the last series, as we know. So Kayla McBride seems to be a lot more back than we might have expected. I'm still looking at 13.5 points going, all right, it's still pretty close to her averages. On the season, she averaged 15. In the playoffs, not quite as good if you take off the head-to-head here. In the playoffs, 14.6, right? So a little bit less than the 15, but I think the over is still going to be a play moving forward for her. This is a much better matchup than it was against the Sun. If you look at her in this series on the season, never got less than 11 points, and she needs 14 in this one, which she's done 3 out of 5. In about, let's see, the 43 minutes last game, 33, 37, 30. So she's going to get 34 to 37 minutes once again. She had 43 in the last one. Take away the OT minutes. She's at 38. So she's going to be one of the players alongside Nafisa that's barely ever coming out. If we look at the minutes for this team in the last game, you can see Nafisa played 43, and so did Kayla, 42, almost 43. Carlton and Courtney Williams, you can bank on them for 30 plus as well. Alana, you can't bank on for that many minutes, and nobody else on the bench. So at least with Kayla, we know she's going to be playing Nafisa style minutes. Once again, I mean, there's no like major edge with these numbers, but you can get, I think, this will be 14.5 if she beats this number once more. If she gets 15 points in this game, expect the books to put this at 14.5. So it's kind of seeming like the rest of the series, 13.5 is a good number to take Kayla at. If you look at her when she plays 35, let's give her about 36 plus minutes, because that's what I'm continuing to expect from her. Not even head-to-head, obviously 2 over in the head-to-head. On the season here, she only did that 11 times in terms of playing at least 36 minutes. 5 out of 11 hit rate, still the same number. But as long as she's playing the 36 and is at about 15 points per game with that number, I'm good to keep hitting her over. I also do think 3.5 assists is something you can keep taking as long as you get plus money for her, because of the fact that she's so involved in the offense. And, there's the likelihood that this Liberty defense does look to run her off the line a bit more, as she crushed it from deep last game. Super efficient game there where she was 4 for 7 from deep and only took 11 shots, 7 of them from 3. So once again, I think the assists are still a good look because they're going to continue to get a hand up in her face, probably run her off the line a bit more here, and that'll be the play for Kayla. What about for Courtney? I mean, look, she's a baller. That's just what it comes down to. When she's in these big moments, she just steps up. It's that simple. I don't have the math to back going over 12.5 points, but I don't have the stones to fade Courtney Williams at this point, who's just playing completely out of her mind. She's hitting everything. We had that incredible 4-point play. But 18 shots, man. I mean, 18 this game, 16 to close out last game. But that's not where she's at. She's at 10 to 12 shots usually on the season. You can see all these within about the 8 to 13 range. So an average of about 10 and a half shots. 12.5 points is a lot of points for someone taking that many shots. It's just I'm scared to fade her when she's this good. The math would tell you to take under 12.5 for this number, right? Even if we look at the playoffs where she stepped up a ton, she's still gone under this half the time, even though she's like, it's when she's good, she's really good. So you might think about some of these sort of like, okay, well, I'm just going to parlay her or take an alt line for her to get 15 points. I'm also going to take, maybe another bet for her to go under 10 points, 10.5 points, right? And that way you're kind of covering yourself for the ability to win plus money on those bets. But she's either feast or famine. There's not much in between for Courtney Williams, especially at 12.5. This is a lean to the under for me, or just take her to go big at this point because there's no edge at 12.5 points. Bridget Carlton, someone we've tried to back recently and has failed the last 3 games. You can see 5 points in this first game, 2 points in the closeout game, and 6 points in game 4 versus the Sun. I mean, she just isn't taking the shots right now. 4 shots this game after she went 1 for 7 and 0 for 6 from deep. I mean, this defense is playing pretty well on the perimeter for the Liberty, but she also seems a little bit more scared to shoot after having a few poor games in a row. She only took 4 total shots in game 1. Very hard to back someone if you don't feel confident in their desire to shoot, to be honest. I don't see much difference in the way that the Liberty are going to play defense either. So it's not like there's going to be more double teams on Stewie or Sabrina that would, on Nafisa rather, or even Courtney Williams that would allow Bridget Carlton to go off. Kayla McBride, Courtney Williams, Nafisa, they're playing all 3 of those straight up, right, at the Liberty defense. So there's not much in terms of like the spot up shooter getting some easy looks. The rebounds, I don't have a reason that she would get more or less at this point either. She's mostly guarding. I want to make sure I remember the matchup here that I wrote down for her. She's mostly guarding. It's a lot of her on Fiebich, Courtney Williams is playing Fiebich. So it's a lot of her on BLH, on Bet Nyjah for the most part, is what we saw in this last game. That was her number 1 matchup. And that's a really tough matchup for her when you consider how much bigger and stronger and honestly faster that Bet Nyjah Laney Hamilton is than Bridget Carlton. It's a tough matchup for her. Don't know the shots will be there. She's more of a fade candidate moving forward than anything to do with overs. For Alana, I continue to like the fact that she played the 30 minutes in this game, but it's just tough. She's not going to get more than 30, even in an overtime game. This was probably closer to 25, and she had the 9 rebounds, and I would expect her at the points and rebounds. I like that a lot. I think the rebounds are the only play I would really look at for her. They're not doubling her. She's not really looking to get assists anymore, whereas in the last game, she's coming off and playing some screen and roll stuff a lot more. That helped her get those, but Jonquel's too good of a defender down low for her to really go down there and try to get the ball down there. At the same time, when she's pulling Jonquel from the basket, she's a little bit faster to go in and get those offensive boards and even at times defensive boards when they're both out on the perimeter. So I still think the boards are a decent play for her. If you look at her head-to-head versus this team this year, over in 3 of 5, averaging about 5. But when she goes over, it's a clean over, and it's been in the games where she's getting a few more minutes, 24, 30. I mean, still, it's very sporadic with Alana, so I don't really love betting on anything with her moving forward. It's just, I don't know if she's getting the minutes. Unlike Courtney Williams, she doesn't even stay in the game if she's hot at the beginning. Courtney's somebody where if she starts hot, you can bank on her to get the minutes. Alana, so sporadic, I don't know what to do with it. Reminder, the Discord is live, free if you want to get into that portion of it. Got a lot of really good guest cappers in there that are coming and giving their looks for us. A lot of good conversation as well, so I would recommend jumping in the Discord, link in the description. And if you do want the VIP Discord, so you don't miss any of the picks that I'm putting, the link is in the description of the video as well to get in there. Use code OCTSALE to get 50% off your first month. We'll look to stay hot in the WNBA, and until I see y'all next, happy betting.